Friday evening, October 21st, Parshas Lech Lecha. As we begin our late Friday evening services, we read of another beginning. The beginning of a religion. In today's portion of the week we read, Vayomer Adonai el Avram, Lech Lecha le'artzecha u'mimoladatecha el haaretz asher arecha. Go from your land, from your birthplace, unto the land that I shall show you. There, my friends, in this land, was Abraham to create a faith, a religion propounding the belief in one universal unseen God. What kind of a God? A God not of war or revenge or all-powerful, as were the concepts of the pagan gods at the time, but a God of pity, a God of justice, a God who bore the strength and agonies of man, a bearer and hearer of prayer, a God of love. Certainly this God was an almighty God, but this was not the greatest attribute of this God that Abraham was teaching of. This was the kind of God that Abraham was teaching of. And he taught by example, showing kindness to the stranger and goodness to the weary and hungry, and giving of drink to the thirsty. The name of our religion, the word Hebrew, was initiated then, when God told Abraham to cross the Euphrates River. He went across the river and pitched his tent and started this new religion. And so the inhabitants of the land called him the man who lives past the other side of the river. The word past in Hebrew is avar, and so they called him the Ivri, one who was living past that river preaching a new faith. The word Ivri in English is Hebrew. And so the name Hebrew, Avraham HaIvri, is old and ancient, and the name of the very man who started this faith. Abraham, the founder of this religion, had only a few observances to be considered a follower of his faith. Above all, the belief of one universal unseen God, a universal God, the God of the Hittites as well as the God of the Canaanites, the God of the American Indians as well as the God of the Upper and Lower Niles of Egypt, the God of all mankind. His God was also one who taught justice and kindness to all mankind. He also set an official time of prayer to thank this God. In fact, the morning prayers that we call Shacharis was initiated by Abraham. The word Shacharis means morning observance, or a morning time to pray unto God. And also, of course, the bris, the circumcision. This was all that constituted the Hebrew faith of Abraham. One God, a bris, a time for prayer every day, and kindness to your fellow man. This was all that a Hebrew or follower of Abraham was at the time. It was hundreds of years later, at the foot of Mount Sinai, that our faith took on form. It was Moses who gave us a legalistic observance to our faith. It was Moses who gave us Yomim Tovim, holidays unto God, laws, regulations, customs, ceremonies, a way of showing thanks to God, and observance to this faith. In short, it was Moses who gave us Torah Yisrael, the Torah of Israel, the book of laws and the book of wisdom of our God and our religion. Indeed, my friends, Abraham was the founder. Moses, by giving us ritual, was the organizer of this religion into a group and form of observance. But one theme, my friends, stayed from Abraham unto Moses and unto the prophets and through our entire Torah and unto Israel of this day. And that, my friends, is the theme of the relationship between God and man. Now, what is this relationship? In other words, my friends, what is God to us? Now let us examine the God of Abraham, or the concept of this God of Abraham, to the gods of Plato, Euclid, Aristotle, Apollinaire, Socrates, Cicero, all great men and pagan or heathen worshippers. When we compare their understanding of gods to their relationship to man, and our understanding of God and his relationship to man, we find something rather unique and interesting. Plato, in describing the difference between his gods and man, said in a mood of melancholy that you be earnest about men. A sad necessity pushes the gods to think of man. In fact, he goes on later to apologize of the low opinion of man that he and his gods have. He goes on and says, and I quote, "Let us believe that the human race is worth some consideration, and so the gods must have some consideration for humans." Cicero, another great man, says, and again I quote, "The gods are concerned with great matters. They neglect small ones, for they have no time for that." Aristotle, and we have all certainly heard of the wisdom of Aristotle, teaches to his pupils that the gods do not have any concern at all with the dispensation of good and bad fortune of external things. In other words, the good and bad that happens to human beings have nothing to do with the gods. My friends, this philosophy of the pagan, of the heathen, goes back to the same philosophy of the pagan and heathens of the time of Abraham. It has not changed for the thousands of years later to the time of Aristotle. It was the same philosophy, the same understanding, and the same relationship that they felt towards their gods and their gods towards their man. We need only to worship to them, was their philosophy, but they have nothing to do with the everyday affairs of the human being. These were the philosophies of great men, but believers in idols. We as Jews have always maintained, and Abraham has taught, that there is one God to all mankind, and by one God we mean a God concerned with the affairs of each and every individual upon creation. The prophets of thousands of years later propounded and taught this very concept of God. To our God, no subject is worthy of consideration as the plight of man. Indeed, God himself is described as reflecting over the plight of man, rather than contemplating eternal ideas. His mind is occupied with the plight of man throughout our Bible, with the concrete actualities of history. Do we find in our Bible as much as one verse or one word that God is busy thinking about his angels, about cherubim, about his internal and eternal palace in heaven? But we do read in our Bible that God is concerned over Daniel in the lion's den, about the crossing of the Red Sea, about the poor, and about the hungry, and about the dumb animal who man must take care of, about where is thy brother? The voice of his blood calls out to me. Our prayers every day testifies to the greatness of our Father in heaven. We all here are praying, are asking, are hoping to have our needs touched by the divinity of our Father in heaven. Each individual, with his prayer of the heart, asks of God to see to his needs and concerns of life. It is a personal communication with our King in heaven. In our prophet's message, nothing that touches upon good and evil of man, nothing is small or trite in the eyes of God. During the high holy days, how have we described our relationship to God? We all know that during the holidays, the theme that ran across the entire service was Kol ma'asecha b'sefer yikosev. All your doings is written in a book. Each and every one of us has a book before God, and God is concerned with that book, and he opens it and he closes it, and he sees what it contains, and he weighs it and judges it and writes our decree. The greetings for the day is Shana Tova Tikosev. May you be written in your book for life. Every one of you, every individual life, and every one of your deeds is yours alone and is big in the eyes of God. The teachings of Judaism is a theology of the common deed from its inception by Abraham to the modern day of Israel. Abraham taught, and our Bible insists, that God is concerned with the everydayness, with the trivialities of life. The great challenge heaven or the glories of eternity, but the plight of society and the affairs of the marketplace. The prophets addressed themselves to those who trampled on the needy, who increased the price of grain, who stole from the poor, who neglected the mourner, who turned his back upon the widow. We do not find that the prophets speak of the glories of prayer, but rather woe is unto the man who has been chased from his father's table. The predominant feature of the heroes of our Bible, of those we read about in our Torah, Abraham, Jacob, Isaac, Reuben, Moses, Joshua, Aaron, is only one of unheroic, unassuring, unconspicuous piety. What are the laws that we find in our Bible? Are they of such concern as sit and think and contemplate of heaven, give glory and pray only unto God? Or do we find that the laws, the predominant feature of the laws, that 6 out of the 10 commandments on such concern as thou shalt not keep the wages of the hired man overnight, when you find the animal of even your enemy astray, return it to him. When the ox is overburdened, help unload his burden. When you build a house, build a parapet around it. Love and cherish your wife. Rab Shimon said, all my life I did not call my wife, but the creator and builder and maker of my home. I did not call her by name. I called her my home. May I speak to you. There is a story told of a chassid who told his rabbi of the dream he had. And he said he dreamt he was in heaven, and there he saw all the pious men that he knew on earth sitting in heaven around a table and eating of a meal of God. And then he awoke, and he saw that indeed he was still alive. And those pious men are all around, going to their daily works and tasks. And the rabbi said that your dream was true, for pious men and men of righteous deed are in heaven on this earth. They bring part of heaven into their everyday lives. The pious man brings heaven indeed, not in the way he prays or runs to shul, but in the way he walks, the way he says hello, the way he closes the door when he says goodbye, the way he sits at the table, the way he smiles to his children, the way he is concerned with everyone else. This is heaven upon earth. As you begin a new year, know this in your hearts, that God is with each and every one of you in your prayers. He cares, he is concerned with your troubles. When you pray, he is at your side praying along with you. When you say Shema Yisrael, it is you that is proclaiming the oneness of God, and it is God who hears you making that proclamation. The very first prayer that was ever written was the prayer of the Shemona Esrei, The very first words written by Ezra close to 3,000 years ago for a group of 10 who came together to pray before the Almighty. And it begins with the words, Elokei Avraham, God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of Jacob. Everyone has the name of God individually before him. And our rabbis ask, why must it be this way? Could it have not begun by saying God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? It would have been the same thing. And the rabbis in the Talmud answer and say, no, it is here to teach us to continue with this theme of God. He was a God of Abraham individually to Abraham, God of Isaac, God of Jacob. And we go on, he is the God of Baruch, God of Zelig, God of Velvel, God of David, God of Moshe, God of Sarah, God of Yente, God of Yocheved, God of Devorah, God of Leah. He is the God with the concern for each individual. This is the concept of the Jewish God, taught by Abraham and still living with us. May we all have Chaim Shiamalos Libenu Letova, a life of the fulfillment of the desires
describes this because these two came to Abraham to speak with him. And by the way, they came to him to make peace. And Abraham discussed with them during this peace treaty an incident about a well of water that he felt was stolen by the people of Egypt. And Abimelech, the king of Egypt, said, I promise you that the well shall be free for all. The situation that actually existed, and we find archaeological proof to this, that the custom of the time was, since water was so scarce, that when an area of a people owned a certain well, they would forbid anyone to use its water unless they would pay a proper tribute for the use of the water. And since Egypt felt that this well was Egyptian territory, the nomads of the area were forbidden to use that well or that water unless they would pay their tribute to the kingdom or to the government of Egypt. Abraham felt, however, that the well is to be free for all, that all the nomads that come about in this area should drink of this water. And so Abraham indeed was ready to make war with those that felt with him, and he as the leader of the army, against this outrageous injustice. When they came there, peace was made. The king of Egypt saw that Abraham was indeed right, and they made the peace in a certain form. They made a treaty by slaughtering 7 sheep and 7 goats and putting the meats out on both ends, and Abraham and the king of Egypt walked between them. This was the custom of the time, that every treaty was not signed on paper, it was signed by a sacrifice of animals. And so the name of this place was given for the name of the 7 animals that were slaughtered. And they called the name Beersheba. Why even today, Beersheba is a city in Israel, where the nomads of the area come on marketplace, usually it's Thursday, from wide and far, to sell their wares. If one goes to Israel today as a tourist, it is in Beersheba where he would take his ride on the camel. Beersheba today, in fact, is growing into a large industrial city. It is becoming the New York, so to speak, of the south of Israel. In fact, many tourists are hoodwinked by their money. When some Arabs course, will tell him, I will show you the well where Abraham was during this treaty. Nevertheless, this is the episode we find in today's Torah. And the reason given for the name of this modern city is today the city of Hershel. And the well still exists, so they say. But my friends, this episode teaches us, even today, the lesson of the right to live and make a living, and more so the importance of a livelihood and of life. Abraham was ready to war. The man of peace, the man of God, was ready to take up arms and take lives of others, if need be, over the water rights of the people. They're not a situation similar to that which is going on in Israel today, over water rights. The same Torah that says, that man does not live on bread alone, this very same Torah also says, that you do not have bread, that you cannot have wisdom and philosophy. That comes first. When God told Adam to say, with the sweat of your brow you shall eat bread, the Talmud says he meant merely to take and to eat, but that God gave man permission to make war even if it must be, if it is a just and right cause, for the right of food and for the right of justice even for others. Now this is not words of Rabbi Brooks, it's words of the Talmud in Baruch's Daf Lamed Gimel, the very page, to make war for the rights of food and the rights of justice. In describing the promised land of Israel, our Torah does not describe it as a land of serenity, or a land of spiritual uplifting, as a land of mysticism. But what does our Torah describe this land of this promised land? By the only word, Eretz Zolat Chalav Dvash, a land that flows with milk and honey, something practical, some food to eat, a land of milk and a land of honey. And who are you trying to fool when you say it's only a land of mysticism and beauty? Plain and simple. People want a living. It is a land of milk and honey. And so, my friend, seeking a way of living is as much the will of God as prayer and devotion. Rabbi Yochanan says if your living is only by skinning animals in the street, then do it with pride. Do not be ashamed or need of man. And laws of justice. Only 3 laws of the 10 Commandments are laws between man and God. The Shabbat, the belief in one God. The rest of them are laws between man and man. Love thy neighbor as thyself. Respect thy father and mother. And these laws of economics, do we find one of the basic differences in Jewish law than any other people. And in fact, the basic difference in the history of Israel as a nation, from the day of its inception as a nation, in the time of Moses. Israel, for instance, was forbidden by law of God, by our Torah, to wage any war solely for conquest of land and for wealth. We are forbidden to have such wars. Throughout world history, we know that economics and wealth, the power of money, was the excuse for war, the excuse for butchery, the excuse for killing, the excuse of murder between nations and nations. Look back into history, my friend, and find the excuses for war of the Roman Empire. Their excuse was we must expand, we must be an empire imperialistic, food for all. This was the excuse of Alexander the Great, though he was a righteous student of Aristotle. The Turkish Empire, or even there as recent as the British Empire, where the sun once never set. That's what they were proud of. The sanctions of Rhodesia today try to get Rhodesia back into the fold of human justice. The sanctions are economic. Blockades of Cuba, or even the Arab boycott, are all in the process or in the fall of economics of food. All over the sphere of economic touches. In fact, the Japanese excuse for their war was the need for expansion. And the common market of today bears out the shaping of the world through economics. Now, my friend, it is true that when Isaiah blessed Israel, he said in the name of Isaac, Isaac asked two of his sons to bring him food. He asked Esau to bring him food before he would bless him, and he asked Jacob to bring him food. Esau went out hunting for his food, but Jacob brought from his own domestic slaughter. When Isaac said, Hakol ko Yaakov v'hayodai Esau. And so he said, the hands are the hands of Esau. So the voice may be the voice of Jacob. That even though we are taught not to wage any war for the sake of wealth, there is no law that one should not protect his home, or his hand, or his land, or his food. On the contrary, it is a mitzvah. Abraham was ready to protect his wealth. You know, when there was a split of the kingdom in Israel, the kingdom broke into the kingdom of Israel and the kingdom of Judea. We all know who the kings of Judah was, but the first king of Israel, his name was Rehoboam. We don't know him. I'm sure most of you have never heard of that name. He would have been a good king, except he made one mistake. He got married. His wife's name was Jezebel. I think we all heard of that name. Jezebel once wanted a beautiful vineyard. It was known as Kerem Novos, the vineyard of Novos. And this man said, I shall not give my vineyard even to the king of Israel. And he his life, what we call that glory. He was there to protect his. And in fact, Israel today, they wage war to protect theirs. Now, what is the situation in this small country of Israel? Israel is a land of 2.5 billion people, whose families sacrifice their lives on the altar of freedom. It is also a land that is 3/5 desert. Now, Israel does not seek to be a leader in world economics, even at this stage in history, where economics is life and death of a nation. Israel is seeking to be another Japan, where everything we find should be made in Japan or made in Israel. So we do find that quite often among our products. Got to have that too. To the present, my friends, Israel has had no use of the Suez Canal, even though the United Nations and the United States made a pledge to France and England and Israel during the Sinai campaign that the Suez Canal shall be open to them as well. They still do not have that use. And so what did Israel do? Its second best choice. They built Ashdod. They built a new port for themselves. They went into Eilat and opened up a new seaport in Eilat. But they do wish to make their homeland self-supporting. To do this on a land of 3/5 desert presents one of the greatest problems of time, light, and that is life, water. As Jews, we have always looked upon the importance of water. For in our prayers, we have such prayers as Geshem, prayer of Tal, asking God to give us rain and to give us dew. We have our psalms and songs of the Shoftim and the Sassoon, may waters flow with joy in the land of Israel. Now when our rabbis tried to compare one human being to another, the only best way they could have compared one to the other was by saying, Kamayan Hamizgaber, the intelligence and the movement of this person is as waters who flow. Everything had a touch of water to do. Yet water always meant life and death. people of Israel. Not only now, but in the times of the Talmud, and even in the times of Abraham. Now let me explain the water situation in Israel and the Arab problem. Perhaps then you will understand why the United States said just recently that it will stand with Israel against any Arab threat. And indeed, what Syria is doing now. We've all heard now of a new train that was just blown up. What's going on there? First of all, there was an Arab boycott that existed 18 years from the inception of that state. This Arab boycott in the past, and I say in the past, but in reality it doesn't exist anymore. I keep getting this. Not to land in every Arab state. So the British never sent any planes. There was no way for tourists or no way for commercial airlines to land in Israel, only through the El Al, no British airlines. The French Renault car company also left Israel. However, both came back to Israel just last year, now a few years back, regretfully, not because they love the people of Israel. That Minnesota would have never left, but for economics reasons, for having left before they found out they were losing more money and they went back to Israel. I think you all can remember the tumult made in England just 2 years ago when the Norwich Union Insurance Company asked Lord Bancroft to resign because the Arabs wanted him to resign. This insurance company, by the way, insured most of the Arab oil and materials among Arab countries. And after that tumult, they went to reinstate Lord Bancroft. Lord Bancroft said, I don't need it. Now, in a summit meeting in Egypt not too long ago, it was passed that Jordan and Syria tried to divert the waters of the Yarmouk and sabotage the water pipes in Israel, which Syria is doing now. Let me give you a little bit of understanding of this. The United States presidential emissary in 1953, Eric Johnston, got together with the Arabs and with the Jews. And they set up a beautiful plan whereby they made Jordan divide that river Jordan right in half. Half of it for Syria, the other half, half of it for Jordan, and the other half for Israel. The tributaries, the water going into Jordan, is a water known as Yarmouk River. And so the Yarmouk River, they gave most of it to the Arabs and a little bit of it to Israel. In this plan, they called in the greatest engineers, both of the Jews and of the Arabs. And they all agreed that they can go ahead and canal or dam the river Jordan, whereby Israel can irrigate her portion, whatever she wishes, and the Arabs can irrigate theirs. In October of 1958, the same Eric Johnston wrote an article saying why this never did come about, at least for Israel. And he wrote, in October of 1955, and I quote, it was rejected for political reasons at a meeting of the Arab League. Syria objected to the project because it would benefit Israel as well as Arab countries. As long as it would benefit Israel, he rejected it. Israel then went ahead on their own, and they started this water scheme. This taught from 1955 to 1966, 11 years, is now first coming into action. Jordan, meanwhile, had already done theirs long ago. They had already canaled and dammed the Jordan River, even though it's taken waters away from the land of Israel, because they happen to have American help, and they happen to have American engineers and American aid, so they were able to do it. Israel had to do it on their own. And now that it is done, Syria warned that they will sabotage the water pipes, and more so, they will sabotage the tributaries where the water goes into the Jordan. It so happens that the mouth or the tributaries that come into this river that make up the Jordan are located in the south in Jordan and in the north in Syria. And of course, Israel does not like this idea. Once or twice did they in fact bomb their territories or their mechanisms that were already there to divert the rivers. And now Syria itself is sending in the El Fatah, the old Phoenicians, to attack the Israelis. My friends, as Abraham of old, who fought for justice and wanted to all, so do we today. And as Abraham was, so shall we in Israel. For the city of Beersheba, place of Abraham's well, is today growing to be a New York of the dead. And with this we say, they may have ideas, but it will not come about. They may have counsel and speak, but with God's help, we shall live.
Shabbos, Parshas Vayishlach, Tovshin Lamed 9. Tomorrow, our Dahlia
becomes a bat mitzvah. Ace Shem. It is a time of godliness. It is a momentous time to all Israel, and certainly to all of us. But this Shabbos, my friends, is unique and momentous for yet a most fabulous reason. 22 years ago, on this very day, the nations of the world in solemn assembly in the halls of the United Nations resolved that the British mandate in Palestine should end, and that the Jewish state shall be born. Medinat Yehudi, B'Shem Medinat Yisrael, a Jewish state, and its name, the State of Israel. Indeed, as our prophets have said, and as we read in our prayer books, in justice shall you be established. The state was Israel established in justice. In righteousness shall we be formed. It was with righteousness that the world gave the land to the Jew. But my friends, as in birth of a child, it is in pain that life comes forth. So it is with Israel. It was born in pain, in agony, in blood, in tears, in war. And the war is still with us. A 22-year war. I often wonder, what do they want from us? What do they want from these people who sought only Mokum Lalun, as Jacob said, a place to rest their head, Mokum Lashul, a place to sit, a place to stand. All we want is peace. And indeed, we say if you wish to work with us, we will cooperate, we will build together, and the land has a lot that could be built. And if not, let me go to the right, and you turn to your left, let my boundary be mine, and let your boundary be yours. Dahlia, you are being a bat mitzvah, a unique Torah portion. We read a very unique story in today's Torah. What gives us an insight to the time and a look at Jewish history repeating itself. My friends, there are two incidents in this week's portion of great interest. The portion begins, Vayishlach Yaakov Malachim. Jacob meets with his brother Esau. After returning, and by the way, 22 years also was he away from home. After returning on his way back, he knows he shall now meet with his brother Esau, the man that swore, I shall take my brother's life, and whose hate is still with him. And we read another incident, Jacob fighting with an angel, and the angel giving him the name of Yisrael, the name of Israel. Quite an interesting story. Jacob, the man of peace, the man whose blessings is Hakol Kol Yaakov, the man whose motto is, the voice is the voice of Jacob, is meeting with Esau, the man whose blessings and motto was, Thou Chabot upon the sword shall you live. But what happened at this encounter? We find that Jacob went to all lengths to avoid strife. He went as far as to call Esau my master and refer to himself as thy slave. He bowed before Esau. Now Torah testifies in the scriptures, not once, not twice, not 4 times, but 7 times as he came closer, he bowed before him and he said, I am thy slave, you are my master, my brother Esau. The scriptures made no secret about it. Jacob was afraid. Jacob was distressed. Yaakov had fear in his heart for his life and his family. Yet our sages in the Talmud condone Jacob for these acts of appeasement. Certainly Hakol Kol Yaakov, the voice is the voice of Jacob. The voice is the voice of peace, of hope and of righteousness and of justice. The motto of Israel is all that. But the verse goes on, my friends. But the hands are still the hands of Esau. There is a time to wage war, say our sages, even for a people of peace. Eis lasos chayo, cried God to Moses. Now is the time to battle. When the Jews crossed Egypt, when the slaves of 400 years were going across to the promised land, and the Egyptians are on their back, and Moses cried and prayed, God said, me, Markitakelai. Why do you cry to me? Why do you pray for me? Now is not a time of prayer. Now is a time to battle. We have a prayer in our books. Who is like you in battle, O God? Next week we celebrate the holiday of Hanukkah. The banner of the Maccabees, the word Maccabee, is abbreviated of the words, who is like you in battle, O God? There is a time to use the hands of Esau, a war for our preservation, for the defense of our home, and also as in Hanukkah, a war to preserve our identity. This time he held fast. This time he said, you do not leave. I do not back out until you bless me to that angel, until I have guarantees of peace. This time the angel turned and said, I bless you. Thy name shall not be Jacob, the calm, the quiet one, the Yoshev Ohalim, the one who sits and everyone steps on. Thy name shall hereafter be Israel. You fought for your right even with God. You fought for your right even with the world. You fought for your right even with angels. And you shall win. Your name shall be Israel. He finished bowing before Esau, cringing in fear. We're done with living in ghettos, with fear for our life, with the unknown future. The life we have young, we're done with saying at night what will happen during the day, and the daytime what will happen in the darkness of night. We're finished with calling the Esau's of the world our masters, and ourselves their slaves. We're out. The world and the walls of the ghettos are broken. Our name is Israel. Thousands of years of bowing, of appeasing, of accepting all proposals, all of it, so that the world can know that we are good little boys. We finally have some desert soil, and they still want Israel to bow. Let the world know, my friends, our name is not Jacob, who fears and appeases, who wears the yellow badge of Treblinka, of Dachau, of Auschwitz, of Bergen-Belsen. Our name is Israel, who stood at the Red Sea and took on the armies of Egypt. Our name is Israel, who prayed at Mount Sinai, who brought down a book of righteousness and justice of 10 commandments, and at the same time repelled the armies of Canaan. Our name is Israel, who shall not bow their heads under the sword of Esau. But my dear friends, This war that is being waged against Israel for 22 years is being lost. We are losing this war. Oh yes, we are winning the battles, but we are losing the war. And we are losing not because materially we don't have the means or spiritually the desire. We are losing by default. Because the front lines, my friends, are here in America, in Asia, in Europe, in Africa, in every corner of the world, wherever Arab propaganda is disseminated. And we seem to be unconcerned. We think that the front lines are 6,000 miles away. But my friends, the front lines are here, even in Greensboro. The enemy is not just attacking with bullets and with bombs and dashed upon helpless women and children, as we just read today's little article in the paper, throwing a hand grenade into the El Al airline terminal or El Al airline office in Athens, Greece. They are attacking with words. They are attacking with statements, with ideas. Zionist imperialism, Zionist conspiracy to conquer the world. In America, they use the expression, the Zionist communist conspiracy. In Europe, their slogan is, the American imperialistic Zionist conspiracy. America is also part of it. And we here in America, we here in Greensboro, are letting them win. Look what's happening on our college campuses. Look what's happening on our newspapers, not our editorials, but our newspaper coverage. In a little column, World News, they throw in a little column about Israel, with the headlines that makes Israel lose either as the aggressor or as the loser. Periodicals, and on the news media. And the propaganda has been effective. Our friends of just 2 years ago are no longer our friends. The great, big Jewish David beat the little Arab Goliath. And how did this happen? It happened because we who know the facts, we who know the truth, we who can answer for those who ask the questions, fail to tell the facts. We fail to go out and let them know the truth. We are complacent. We fail to talk about it. I've come to the painful realization that the propaganda war can make or break Israel's survival, and they need us here. And they need the people of Europe and in Asia and in Africa. Our universities, our friends in the academic fields are being awfully and suddenly imbued with pro-Arab sentiment. And know the facts, the truth about the refugees, the history of the legality of Israel. Why don't we know these facts? The fact that the geographical area never in history was an Arab state, where it was a Jewish commonwealth. They propagandized this. Jews always lived there. They were prayed for its return. There are pamphlets and booklets and so on explaining this, explaining the arguments they give about the refugees. Why don't we pick them up? Why don't we read them? Don't just be an emotional Jew. Be a knowledgeable Jew in the facts of the state of Israel. Yes, my friends, it is not too late. The United Synagogue has awakened to this problem and is beginning to move. The Rabbinical Assembly has awakened to this problem and is beginning to move. Even the United Synagogue Youth National Body asked the youth to awaken to this problem, and indeed, there was a group of concerned lay leaders here in Greensboro who are awakened to this problem. On December 18th, the Greater Carolinas Association of Rabbis, together with the cooperation of the Ministerial Association of the Triad area, are going to have a seminar for clergy on the situation of Israel. We ask you to go and tell your friends about it. Tell your Christian friends to ask their ministers to attend. Let them know the facts. And after they attend, ask your ministers to also partake in expressing these facts when they return. My friends, we've just celebrated Thanksgiving. To express appreciation is a godly attribute. It is almost impossible to say, or even think, thank you, without ever expressing the feeling to God. And when we think about it, we all have a lot to be thankful for freedom, for home, for nachas, for blessings. But most of all, be thankful for what you are. Be proud of your faith. Be proud of your brethren in Israel. Be proud of them. For their life is interwoven in yours, and yours is interwoven with them. Don't think it is not. Be thankful that we are Americans. Be proud that you are Americans. There is no Thanksgiving in Russia. And be thankful that in a small corner of the world there exists a land of Israel. Am Yisrael Chai, the people of Israel shall live. When you are asked to help, when you are asked to go to the universities, when you are asked to bring pamphlets to them, when you are asked to see university students organize little organizations other than just the Hillel, to give our heart, to tell our story, don't turn away, don't move from it. Israel needs you as Israel needs life.
Shabbos Parshas Vayeshev, Shabbos Hanukkah. In the days of Mattathias, a tyrannical power rose up against thy people to compel them to forsake thy Torah, and to force them to transgress thy commandments. But thou didst bring the wicked into the hands of the just, the arrogant into the hands of those devoted to the Torah. So reads part of the prayer of Al-Hanisim. What is Hanukkah all about? Is it merely a story of a miracle of a cruse of oil lasting 8 days? No, my friends. The story of Hanukkah in its true meaning and its true sense
is a significant lesson of faith, a lesson of religious worship, of traditional ceremony. It is a lesson of true Yiddishkeit. Antiochus had a plan to Hellenize the Jewish people, assimilate, be like us, be part of our empire, partake in our games, take our names, dress like we do, be modern, worship our gods. But there were a few who stood and let themselves be heard. As in the book of Maccabees in chapter 2, verse 19 and 20, Matisyahu Mattathias answered and replied in a loud voice, though all the heathen within the lands of this domain obey him, and all forsake the worship of their fathers, and show preference for his commands, yet will I, my sons, and my brothers walk in the covenant of our fathers. My dear friends, the Maccabees did not fight for land, for physical freedom. They fought and bled and gave their lives for the sake of the Jewish soul. On Hanukkah, my friends, we celebrate the victory of the Jew against Oyevei Nafshenu, against those of the enemies who sought to destroy the soul of our people, against those who sought to destroy our Torah, our way of life, our faith, our tradition, our Jewishness. They began, and soon others followed. They began with 5, and then 25. I am being terribly disturbed. I wish my daughter would move from that particular seat. Back to her grandfather and grandmother, please. began a revolt. They began with 5, and then 25, and then 205, and soon thousands upon thousands called out. What are we doing with our Torah, with our mitzvahs? Have we forgotten our faith, forsaken our God? The clarion call became Mila Eli. Whoever is for God and our faith, follow me. Thy wicked didst thou bring into the hands of the few, and the arrogant into the hands of those devoted to our Torah. The goal of the Maccabees was the Beis Hamikdash. It was the temple. The goal of the Maccabees was Jewish worship, observance, and all it stood for. It was a rededication to our God, to our Torah, to our Shabbos, to our holidays. It was a rededication to our prayers, to our community of Jews, to our coming to the synagogue. Every candle on Hanukkah should be a symbolic flame that glows with a message of Jewishness in our hearts. And I ask, what has Hanukkah become? It became a time to eat latkes, to play dreidel. Indeed, it has become, in a sense, Christianized. Oh, I don't like it completely. Thank God I could walk into a home and I could see children singing and playing dreidel, and a home decorated. To them, this is Hanukkah, at least. Bless them for that. But it has become Christianized. Christmas cards, Hanukkah cards. Christmas gifts, Hanukkah gifts, every night for all the children. Christmas decorations, Hanukkah decorations. Christmas trees, and we know that in some home there is the Hanukkah trees. Aren't we here in America becoming Hellenized? What the Maccabees fought against in 168 BC is coming about to 1969 CE. Why? Because, my friends, everybody talks about assimilation, but nobody does anything about it. Where are my congregants this Shabbos Hanukkah? Why do I see empty seats? It's Hanukkah. It's Shabbos Hanukkah. Where are they? I am reminded of a story told by Shalomash. He once came into a home on Hanukkah and saw the candles burning on the Shabbos off on the side. And he asked the Balabras of the house, what is this? And he said, well, this candle is the Shabbos. What do you do with the Shabbos? The Shabbos, we light all the other candles. And he said, isn't the Jew just like the Shabbos? How much light have they given to the world? How much brightness and understanding and philosophy and wisdom and courage and justice and norms and moral have they taught the world? Yet they put the Shabbos, the Jew, at the side. My friends, I wish tonight to change those words and speak not of the Jew, but of Jewishness, of the synagogue, of the Shabbos of davening. These are what gave life to our fathers' faith. It was this that gave birth to every trait and norm and outlook that gives us the Jewish faith, the Jewish spirit within us. But the Shabbos is put on the side. The synagogue, observance, holidays, Jewish study are put aside. The average Jew couldn't care less. The pocketbook has gained its crown of distinction over the prayer book. Granted indeed. Indeed granted. The one who gives charity, the person active in Jewish organization, the man who attends meetings of men's club, or the woman who attends sisterhood, the men who give of their time for breakfast for those who wish to come. And there are many of them. The man who is active in synagogue activities, who gives up his evening evenings to attend board meetings and school meetings and committee meetings, the men and women who work for their synagogue. Granted, my friends, these men and women are doing for Jews and for Jewishness. They do it for God and for our people. And in the words of our prayers, as we read on page 128 of our prayer book, and all who work and devote themselves to the needs of the community with faith, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yishalim Sechahom. May the God Almighty, the Holy One, give them their reward, the Yishlach B'Vacha V'Hatzlacha, and send blessings and Hatzlacha and Mazel in their hands. Certainly they ought to be blessed. But is this enough? Should Judaism end there with an occasional visit on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur? Is this all Judaism is? Is this the sum total of our Jewish commitment? Shouldn't synagogue worship and the Sabbath and observance and study and adult education be an integral part of our Jewishness? No, my friends, it is not enough. Indeed, for some people, not all, perhaps very few, but for some people, these are just excuses. For a few people that I speak to, these are mere rationalizations to oneself, that he's doing his best as a Jew. He fails to see that there is more to Judaism than physical action. And the often heard of excuse that I've heard, I'm not inspired by the services, so I don't want to come. This is a poor one indeed. It reminds me, first of all, of that famous, fatherly, often used proverb, if you don't like the chazan, then you don't want to say Amen. Secondly, even if Abraham and if Moses and Judah Maccabee were conducting services, you still couldn't satisfy everyone. And this I can guarantee you. Moses didn't satisfy him when he brought them out of Egypt. Judah Maccabee didn't satisfy them when he brought them back to the temple. And Abraham didn't satisfy them. He had a son named Ishmael. But most of all, if you come with your hands folded, saying, inspire me, you will never be inspired. Inspiration is just like an iceberg. 90% is from within. Those who are waiting for someone to turn on the light of inspiration on them like a spotlight might try turning on an inside switch. There was once a day that the Jew went to shul to bring God to himself because he wanted to daven, because he wanted to be a Jew, not to stand here inspired. My friends, as a rabbi, I don't wish to condemn you. Nobody. I wish only to teach you. It is unfortunate that we live in a television world, that what you don't like, you just switch off. It is unfortunate that we are not synagogue-oriented, that the home Jewishness does not mean much to the modern Jew. It's unfortunate. But to most of our parents, and to all of us who really understand, it was an integral part of Jewish life. What happened to us? And yes, you want to be inspired, and the rabbi is expected to give out pearls of wisdom and speak for 52 weeks. My friends, I wish to bring some Judaism into your Jewish life, not simply orations, not simply pearls of wisdom floating. How long can we live with this double standard between parents and children, between teachers and children? Where are the parents of our Hebrew school children? Where are the 170 Hebrew school children on Shabbos morning? Where's our junior congregation? We don't even have 10, a union of of small children up to the age of 13, that we can put them at a side and say, come, let's have junior congregation. We'll feed them and we'll give them drink and we'll sing with them, but where are they? Where are those parents? Is it too much for them to attend services at least once a month? Once a month. Once a month, turn off your television and begin eating 6:30 and start reading your paper and look at your news. And instead of saying, well, it's a 8:15, it's too late, I'll stay home already. Make up your mind, today I'm going to synagogue. Is it too much to ask our bar and bat mitzvah candidates to attend services regularly, to have their fathers and mothers attend adult education, to have them come to synagogue to know what's going on? I've had a bat mitzvah, and I saw that father for the first time since I was here, when he came to me 2 weeks before to go over the list. And that father showed himself. He knew nothing what was going on in shul. Where are they? Is it too much to ask out of a membership of over 200 families to see a full class in adult education? We matozah. We give our time. We give our effort, and we'll do it even if one wants to study Mishnah. Or if I have one student that wants to study Talmud, ask me and I'll give it to you. But why should we proclaim adult education and find no more than 6 or 7? Try it, you may find that you don't know everything. Try it, you may find that there is something that will inspire you and put that glow of light into you. Where are they? They can play mahjong. They can go to their nightly games or bowling, their weekly activities. But once, only for 4 weeks, 1 night a week, adult education. My friends, there is an old Hasidic legend that every document must have 2 signatures. Rosh Hashanah, God writes in his book of life what is to happen. And Yom Kippur he signs. The Hasidic legend says that he gives the 2nd signature on Hanukkah. Indeed, let Hanukkah be for us a moment of soul searching. A time to kindle our faith within our homes, a season of rededication. We need but a few to be dedicated, and the masses will follow. The many in the hands of the few, in the hands of the just, in the hands of those devoted to thy Torah. May God bless us all, that from this Hanukkah, and as the Hasidic blessing, to the Hanukkah haba, the Hanukkah that comes upon us, we will kindle within ourselves that true spirit of what the Maccabees gave their blood for Judaism, for our faith, for returning to the synagogue. We continue our services, page 37. Let us rise for Aleinu L'Shabbat. Shabbos, Parshas Miketz, U.S.Y. Convention, 1969, December 12th.
The President of Seaboard Region USY, Ella Schlosenberg.
If I forget you, O Jerusalem, let my right hand lose its cunning. Let my tongue cling to my palate. If I do not remember you always, if I do not set Jerusalem as the source of my happiness, Yerushalayim shel zahav, Jerusalem of gold. This holy city has always been the source of strength for the Jewish people all over the world. Age after age, the name of the city has evoked a religious devotion of great respect for thousands and thousands of people, and has proved a never-failing source of spiritual inspiration. Jerusalem is holy to all monotheisms, but it has always been exceptionally important to the Jews. Twice they were exiled from it, and twice they made their way back. They clung to the city and dwelt in it. Whenever the Jewish people had been away from Jerusalem, the theme of their prayers and the hopes were for an eventual return to Zion. Jerusalem has been, still is, and will always be the very heart and core of the Jewish people. I remember learning a song a couple of years ago called Yerushalayim. Its translation is a beautiful one, and it goes like this. From the peaks of Mount Scopus, Shalom Yerushalayim. From Scopus Peak I bow to thee, O Jerusalem. For centuries I asked in prayer to behold thy youth's renewal. Yerushalayim, Yerushalayim. Smile on the children once more. Yerushalayim, Yerushalayim. Thy ruins I shall restore. Although these words are beautiful to me, they really do not have much of a meaning. For me, Jerusalem was just a place, just a name. But I soon realized that although I was 6,000 miles away, this holy city held special meaning for me and was a great part of my life and of my Jewish heritage. I remember reading during the Six-Day War, just 3 years ago, probably the most well-known words of the famous Jewish poet, Yehuda Halevi. He said, "My heart is in the east, and I am in the uttermost west." This was not only true for myself, but I'm sure of all the Jewish people throughout the world. The old city, the land of the great temple of ancient times, has once again been recaptured. After 19 years, our people could go to the Western Wall, the Kotel HaMaravi, to pray. We could walk the temple site and Jerusalem from the Mount of Olives. Jerusalem was again in the hands of the Jewish people. This past week, we celebrated the joyous festival of Hanukkah, commemorating the dedication of the temple. Once again, in our day and age, we have lived to see Jerusalem in the hands of our people, and it was a time of rededication, not only to the temple, but to the holy city, and a time of great rejoicing for the Jewish people. After everything that I've said, you may wonder what USY's role is in Jerusalem and Israel. We recognize the prominence of Israel in the holy city through the building of what we call spiritual bridges. These bridges have at times left quite a tangible effect. Through one of our summer projects, the Israeli pilgrimage, the building of spiritual bridges has become a real experience. Many of my friends have gone, and the change that has occurred in them is phenomenal. They not only return home enthused, but have gained a real sense of what Judaism means. For 7 weeks, they have been living complete Jewish lives in the holy land of our people. Their spirit is overwhelming, and the bond that they have formed between themselves, Judaism and Israel, will never be ending. I cannot help but stress to each and every one of the USYers sitting here tonight to investigate the possibilities of attending this pilgrimage. The experience gained and the friends you will meet will be yours for life. This chance should not be missed. Yerushalayim Shel Zahav.
The statue was to be put against the wall of the temple, and the back would never be seen. And a friend asked him, why make the back so perfect? And he answered, the statue must be perfect everywhere, because the gods see everywhere. If art depends only merely on impression, then only the visible is important. And the same, my friends, is true for our weekday and everyday behavior. And the same indeed is true for our religious expressions. The gods, as he said, see everywhere. Integrity, truth,
sincerity of purpose and motivation, unity between if your heart and your mouth say the same thing. This is true. But most of all, my friends, this truth must be evident in political and government rule. We read in our prayers today, He cometh to judge the earth, to judge the world in righteousness and the nations by truth. My dear friends, our society is in a dilemma. Not only the individual group, be he Jew, Christian, Negro, or whatever, but our world society, our world government and our government. People have forgotten truth. They have forgotten sincerity of purpose. Even the government of the world. How many of you remember that we celebrate this week the 25th anniversary of the United Nations? It is already passé because of the way they acted and what they have done. It is a dilemma that must not go by silently. Silence, my friends, has been the greatest sin of this 20th century. The greatest sin, indifferent silence. We've lost 6 million because of silence. We've read a book, The Deputy, that indicates what silence is. And by God, we must not let it happen again. We are told that an embarrassing departure from Vietnam would mean that America would become a second-rate power, although who would be the first-rate power is not specified. Perhaps in the Middle East we are seeing it because America is staying as a second-rate power there. A former cabinet officer said unless the war is stopped, America is going down the drain. And another cabinet officer said flatly, the United States is disintegrating. Historian Arnold Toynbee said that America seems to be moving rapidly towards a civil war. And we see it. My friends, I speak volontiers believe, I speak words of my heart. And I hope they shall be accepted, my heart. When I say that while each of us pursue our own selfish interests, our involvement in Indochina is encouraging Soviet adventure in the Middle East. It is a fact, and it is true. And while this is going on, we as Jews are seeing death and murder and butchery of our own brethren at the same time that the United Nations condemns Israel for wishing to protect themselves. Abba Iban is pleading for planes not to attack Cairo or Damascus or Amman or Beirut. He is pleading for those planes, but to stop a Russian takeover of all the Mideast. He is pleading for those planes that a bloodbath that Nixon is afraid would happen in Vietnam should not take place in the Ir HaKodesh, in the holy city, in the Ir David Hanuphilis, in the city of David that was once in ruins, in the city of Jerusalem. And so he pleads, give us, to help us. But our government sits silent. Their decision was not to make a decision. You know, when I was at the university taking biology, I recall an experiment that I had. The experiment was plain and simple. We filled a pail up with hot water, and we took a frog and threw it in. And the frog jumped out of that hot water immediately. Then we took the same pail of hot water, the same pail, poured the hot water out, filled it with cold water and put the frog in, and the frog stayed. Then little by little we poured hot water into that pail. And the frog stayed and stayed and didn't realize that he is being cooked alive in the same hot water. My friends, our world is now finding that hot water on them. What is happening to people? We possess great learning, but confusion accomplishes and accompanies that learning. Psychology has opened our minds, but not our hearts. Physics has widened our universe, but we remain more lonely than ever. There is poverty, the question of ecology, there is crime. Our age has outer power, but it lacks inner peace. It has strength, but it lacks security.
I recall a story that Abraham Lincoln once said to a friend, "What bothers me is not the parts of the Bible I don't understand, but what bothers me is the parts of the Bible that I do understand. What bothers me is not that I don't understand man, but what bothers me is what I do understand and what I do see and what I do hear." I truly believe, my friends, that this integration of our government, of our community, of our home, of our universities, of our own person, is because people forget how to care for other people. Our Medrash puts it so beautifully when our Medrash says, King Solomon wrote in the book of Proverbs, Kohelet, there is a time to cry and a time to laugh. There is a time to mourn and a time to dance. And our rabbis ask, isn't crying and mourning the same? Isn't laughing and dancing the same? And they say, no, there's a difference. Sometimes that the time itself begins to cry. That the heavens above, the society within us, it's a time to cry that with us above. Such times are with us now. My friends, men did not love Rome because Rome was great, but Rome was great because men loved her. Now, my friends, what is the purpose of this harangue? To tell you solace, we know. To tell you that solace is touching us as Jews, we can feel it. To tell you that it is closing in on us as individuals. My friend, Hershel, the wise man, has his eyes in his head and he can realize it. To tell you that it can't happen here, what happened in Germany, witness the steel-helmeted construction workers who went and beat and fought and were still accepted so willingly in the White House. The Black Panthers, the crime in the streets, the rural Americans, and so on. But this is a sermon in itself. The wise man sees what comes before him. We are only to read the ADL bulletin that we've received in the mail this week. See what's happening here in America as far as we Jews are concerned. If something is living and growing up and boiling over as a volcano. No, my friends, my purpose is not to be a prophet of doom. As Jews, we cannot be a prophet of doom. I can recall the story of the Jews when they were freed from the concentration camp. The rabbi who was freed with them and the concentration camp being right near the city of Lemberg said, let us all go into the city, and the synagogue was destroyed completely. But the walls remained, the gutted walls. And he said, let us daven at the western wall to remind ourselves of the wall of Jerusalem. At the first Zionist conference, Bialik said and Bialik wrote, the sorrow of the Jews brought us together. Today, when the Zionist conference was held in Israel 2 years ago, the president of Israel said, today it is the light and the pride of Jews that bring us together. No, Jews do not know what it means to worry and to think of doom. I'm reminded of that story of a husband and wife that came before a judge and wanted a divorce. And when the judge asked him, what's your reason? He said, because of illness. And they said, what do you mean because of illness? Well, we're sick of each other. No, my friend. I don't think we can be sick of our society or our society sick of us. Even though I think that the story I've heard, and such a quite beautiful story, of a priest who met a rabbi and said, I hope one day that a Jew and a Negro should run for president. This way it'll show brotherhood. And the rabbi looked at him and said, yes, that's wonderful, but I hope they don't run at the same time. No, my friends, we don't think of doom. But my entire purpose tonight is rather to teach you this week's Torah portion. And Joe will remember it. It is this week, the week of your Bar Mitzvah. To see indeed how our Torah and its wisdom, its truth, its lesson for all mankind lives in this our own very society. And it is not a general rhetoric. It is not an abstract lesson, but a truth for you and I and every fellow that may hear my voice. Our Torah begins, my friends. These are not words written by a master 20 years ago, but by Torah. If you walk in my statutes, keep my commandments, and do them, then I will give you rain in its season, and I will give you peace in the land, and none shall make you afraid. And I, God, will respect unto you and make you fruitful. But if you reject my words, I will appoint terror over you, and your soul will languish. I will break the pride in your power, and your strength shall be spent in vain. Your skies shall rain down iron and steel and fire, and your earth shall be as brass with holes where you walk. This, my friends, Torah, 4,000 years ago, and we see steel in our heavens and brass in our earth. We find terror among ourselves. After Ponai, says our Torah, I shall turn my eyes away from mankind, and I shall see how they act. And we are seeing it. And my friends, our Torah speaks not only to the individual, it speaks to society. It speaks to mankind. If you will follow God's laws. And what is God's law? As I heard a Hasidic Rebbe once say, our 10 commandments begin with the word Anochi, I. And it ends with the word Reyacha, your friend, your neighbor. In between, it gives us not sentiment, but a program of action. A program of action. My dear friends, this week is an end and yet a beginning. Certainly, it is an end of a Torah portion. It is an end of Vayikra. It is an end of the book of Leviticus. It is an end of the book that begins, holy shalt thou be. And it is an end of the school year. Yay, many children are happy about that. And tomorrow we celebrate Memorial Day. For most, it will be just another weekend. Few will make a pilgrimage to a cemetery for a fleeting moment to pay tribute to a fallen soldier. But most everybody will listen to the Indianapolis 500, I know that. Or perhaps to a horse race that's going on in New York. I think it's called the Belmont Stakes or something to that effect. Most of you will. How different it is in Israel when it's Memorial Day there in Israel. But it is also a beginning. It is the beginning of a month of weddings. It is the beginning for graduation. It is the beginning of summer, and I hope it is not going to be a hot summer. It is a time to give thought to new beginnings, to partake in this Anochi and this I, as individuals, to the Reyacha, to the others who you are concerned with, your neighbor. You can and you must act and react in our day. We must. Write to your congressmen. Sign petitions if they are for good and if you feel they are right. See to help that Israel receives its request. See to it that there is peace in your street, in your home, in your neighbor. Our Talmud says, anyone who suffers with the community will in time share in its joys. And you, each one of you, is a world that can build a world. I wish to end with what I heard Dr. Finkelstein once said, and I mentioned it last week, just out of my mind. But how beautiful, how true it is. I heard Dr. Finkelstein speak at a commencement exercise right after 1967 war. And he said that God is in a bound. He's in a straitjacket. There's something God did, foolishly perhaps, but something he did that he cannot help himself. When God created man, he said unto man, I give you free will to do what you wish. Behold, I give you, man, a blessing and a curse, life and death. Choose life, he asks. He gave us free will. He can't help himself. He can't say, do this and don't do this. You have the right yourself. And God pleads with us, my friends. Choose life. Choose blessing. God is saying, as Dr. Finkelstein said, help me. I need you. I cannot think that I created you for death and destruction. God is talking to us now, my friends. He is talking to us when there is killing at the university. God is talking to us when there was the assassination of Kennedy and of King. He was talking to us when children are murdered at the Lebanese border. He is talking to us even when the stock market isn't there and when the stock market went up. God is talking to us, and He's talking to our society. He's asking, He's begging. He's saying, Ben Adam, Son of Man, help God, help us. He needs our help. And then one day, the age of the Messiah will be upon us. Then one day, perhaps, one day, that we will be able to understand, and we shall indeed be able to see that there will be no war and no death and no hurt in all of God's mountains. And all will then proclaim the prayer that we say, Yiskadal v'yiskadash shemei Rabbo. The Almighty Baruch will say, magnified and sanctified be the name of God throughout the world which He had created according to His will. We all will say Amen. For Yehi Shmei Rabbo, for His great name shall be blessed forever and ever. Go out tonight in peace, my friends. Go into the summer months in peace. But go also with your heart understanding that God requires something. He requires your help. He requires your concern. He requires that the world start to think that this world should be. O Shalom bin Vamov, peace for all. Shabbos, Parshas Bahaloscha, Tov Shin Lamed, 1970. My dear friends, we are at a crossroads of the year, at a time of ending vigorous activities. The fever of July and the feeling of relaxation is upon us. This Sunday we celebrate Father's Day, and our Torah reading speaks of kindling the menorah, the candelabra in the tabernacle in the desert. It speaks of the word Vayihi ben Salah Ha'aron, and it was that when the Holy Ark was being carried from place to place. It speaks of people who prophesied, who were not appointed to be prophets. And last week, our Torah reading spoke of Birchas Kohanim, the blessings given by the priests. And indeed tonight, a young man becomes a bar mitzvah. And my dear friends, we do have a message. A message that at first may seem unrelated, but is both related and interwoven with all the proceedings just mentioned. In a way, I'm reminded of the story of a man who came from the ship to America. And he met somebody and he said, my name is Chaim, I'm from Slobodka. And he says, well, fine, my name is Moshe, I'm also from Slobodka. And he says, do me a favor, Moshe, would you lend me $20? And Moshe looks at Chaim and says, who are you? I don't know you. And Chaim says, isn't this a Meshuggah world? In Slobodka, where they all know me, they won't lend me money. And here, nobody lends me money because they don't know me. Indeed, my friends, in both cases, whether it be a case of celebrations of Father's Day or holiness, there is a connection. This week's schedule begins with a commandment. God commanded the children of Aharon, the priests, that they were to kindle the lights in the sanctuary. And the Medrash asks, how is it that this commandment to the Bnei Aharon, to the Kohanim, was given immediately following the story of the magnificent gifts which the Nesiim, the princes, brought at the dedication of the Mishkan? And the Medrash says that Aharon was very dismayed when he saw the richness of these princes, these laymen in Israel, who when the temple was dedicated were able to bring vessels of gold and silver and jewelry, cloth of purple, and cloth and wool of colors of the wealth.
great offerings and a tremendous display of wealth. And the Talmud says that when he witnessed this procession and its magnificent gifts, he had a sinking of the spirits. Because he said, how can I compare to the prestige of these rich princesses who serve the Jewish people? So God said unto him, don't worry. I may swear by your life, that what you do is greater than what they did. Because you kindle the lights of the sanctuary, because you trim the lamp within the holy places. Because what you do is a light that will go forth from generation to generation to the world outside. What they have done builds here only. Now I say this to you, my friends, we are so often dismayed when we see how so many people rise in material affluence and rise so high in business, and very often we have a kosher dato of our own. We have a sinking of the spirits of our own. And I question, however, the truth, the validity. Is it worth it? All this wealth and affluence? There is wealth all around us, and with it there is hate and bigotry. Certainly there is beauty and wealth and affluence in Miami, and yet there is death in the streets and curfew in the neighborhoods of the blacks. We are supposed to be living in a modern affluent society, and we have a world of commerce, of lawlessness, and everything it implies. A world of discrimination, of filth, of pollution, of unconcern, of dog-eat-dog in business life as well as in families. How true it is. What you have, when it is a kindling of the spirit in the heart, is greater. In kindling a spiritual life, in trimming the lamps of the sanctuary of your heart, your wealth is so much greater. Only in this way can you bring forth light to a darkened world. I tell you, as a rabbi, in a personal sense, I too sometimes wonder to myself, look at this wealth and this affluence. I see people in Cadillacs with $300 suits and $75 shoes and swimming pools, fun and enjoyment and everything they wish. And I wonder to myself, what do I have? What can I give my wife? Why must we sometimes worry how to save to buy a minimum of a luxury? I sometimes wonder if it's a good Jewish business or a Jewish boy to become a rabbi. And then I think to myself what I've heard Dr. Finkelstein say to some students. He told us that during the time of the Depression, when synagogues were closing, when rabbis were waiting literally months and were not paid. And the first thing, of course, the synagogues in the time of depression close up. It's like that story told of the child that was given 2 dimes, one to buy some candy and one to throw into the push bowl. He goes to school and he hops and jumps to school and he loses the dime and he goes, uh-oh, God, you just lost your dime. The first one that loses, of course, is God. Okay. What are you doing? He said, if my synagogue closes its door, then my house must close its door as well. But nevertheless, his students were asking him, Dr. Finkelstein, we're going out to the world and look at this depression. How would you live? And he said unto them, the first year you have your rabbinate in the synagogue, your wages will be $1 million worth, plus whatever salary they give you. when you carry the light of spiritual blessing all you people, when you do for people, the gratitude which they carry in their hearts and the imprint which we make upon their lives is an eternal gift which is never forgotten and which can never be rewarded sufficiently. How often do we give this light to people? And I think each and every one of you can give your own bit of an example whereby somebody has done something to you that you can never really express the words of gratitude. You will never forget the small touch of light is given to you, in whatever manner or way. And can you also imagine when you do to others, how this light radiates, how this wealth is a wealth that cannot be paid. And I will tell you a bit of a Hasidic Torah, in fact. Since I am from Hasidic background, we learn Ezehu Osher HaSameach B'Chalto, who is the rich man, the one who is happy in what he has. And the word Osher is spelled Aleph, Shin, Yud, Reish. Aleph is a Naim, Shin is Shinayim, Yud is Yodayim, Reish Raglayim. Who is rich? One who has eyes and teeth and a stomach and hands and feet. He has health. He has everything he wants. The fact isn't this what Jacob wanted when he left? And he prayed unto God, God, give me bread to eat, lechem, and clothing to wear. What else does one do with bread? What else does one do with clothing if not eat and wear? Why must he mention it? But what he meant was give me bread and the health that I can eat it. Clothing and the peace that I can wear it, not the running and the place to place and the hiding and the fear that whatever clothing I have is just what I keep on my back. This is wealth. And my dear friends, this is what our young are telling us. But unfortunately, our own young do not realize that this is what Judaism tells us. That this is what wealth is. Light to each other. A spiritual light. How many of you have read the Hadassah article, the latest Hadassah magazine that came out, the article by Eli Wiesel? If you haven't, you must. He speaks to the teenager and says it in such beautiful words. You are 17 and confused, he says to the teenager. You are Jewish without knowing why, and you don't even know what it means to be Jewish, and your friends are not, and your parents just barely know. And yet you are not religious, but not fasting and your kippur activities. And you, the teenager, ask the questions. 1,000 questions, yet it's always the same, of society and of others, of oneself, of death and of God. And my dear friends, the questions man poses to God may be the same question that God poses to man. You tell me why you're this way. Oh yes. By struggling on behalf of Russia, Arab or Polish Jews, I fight for human rights everywhere. By calling for peace in the Middle East, I take a stand against every aggression, every war. By protesting the fanatical exhortations to holy wars against my people, I protest against the stifling of freedom in Prague. By striving to keep alive the memory of the Holocaust, I denounce the massacres in Biafra and the nuclear menace. Only by drawing on this unique Jewish experience can the Jew help others. A Jew fulfills his role as man only from the inside of Jewishness. Even my dear friends, my brothers and sisters, don't you realize the light we kindle in man as a Jewish people is greater than all the wealth and prestige of the world? Be proud, we are Jews. In every generation, man must look at himself. How is this generation changed? How am I doing? I'm reminded of the story told of the great British parliamentarian, Disraeli, the Prime Minister. When he was electioneering, he came place to place and shook hands, and he shook the hands of one man and said, "Whoa, you Jew, I would rather vote for the devil. I would rather vote for the devil before I would vote for you." And in full composure he said, "Yes, I understand that, but in case your friend isn't running, would you then vote for me?" My friends, there is the devil out there. Why don't we become friends to our own? Sometimes hearing this plea from people and reading it so often, I think of the words of Ruskin, who said, "I show men their plain duties, and they reply that my style is charming." We read in today's Torah, the kindling of light, and we read by Hebden Soah that when the holy ark was carried, the prayer was, "Kuma Adonai, come, O God, arise, O God, v'yafutzu oyevecha, and spread out your enemies. V'yelusu misanecha, let them run, your enemies run from you." Here we're speaking about holiness, about an ark, and then we speak about enemies running and going. Yes, my friends. If what is in that ark and the spirit of that light of the ark must indeed chase and fight the enemies of what the Kadosh, the holiness, the Or, the light of Torah Or, of this particular ark. And when we read last week of the Birchas Kohanim, the last prayer for peace was a peace of an inner type, a peace of the soul, a tranquility within yourself that you can give to others, a peace that lights, radiates from within to the world. When we read that from all who had to prophesy, suddenly 2 more prophesied, it was because they felt the importance not of saying I'm a great man, not of the prestige of greatness, but the simplicity of giving from one's inner self to another. And so they too deserved to be prophets. My dear friends, our Haftorah says it so beautifully. And I end with this. Our Haftorah calls out to the world, not only to the Jews, not by might nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. See the same question that God poses to man. You tell me why you're this way. Oh yes. By struggling on behalf of Russia, Arab or Polish Jews, I fight for human rights everywhere. By calling for peace in the Middle East, I take a stand against every aggression, every war. By protesting the fanatical exhortations to holy wars against my people, I protest against the stifling of freedom in Prague. By striving to keep alive the memory of the Holocaust, I denounce the massacres in Biafra and the nuclear menace. Only by drawing on this unique Jewish experience can the Jew help others. A Jew fulfills his role as man only from the inside of Jewishness. Even my dear friends, my brothers and sisters, don't you realize the light we kindle in man as a Jewish people is greater than all the wealth and prestige of the world? Be proud, we are Jews. In every generation, man must look at himself. How is this generation changed? How am I doing? I'm reminded of the story told of the great British parliamentarian, Disraeli, the Prime Minister. When he was electioneering, he came face to face and shook hands, and he shook the hands of one man and said, "Whoa, you Jew, I would rather vote for the devil. I would rather vote for the devil before I would vote for you." And in full composure he said, "Yes, I understand that, but in case your friend isn't running, would you then vote for me?" My friends, there is the devil out there. Why don't we become friends to our own? Sometimes hearing this plea from people and reading it so often, I think of the words of Ruskin who said, "I show men their plain duties, and they reply that my style is charming." We read in today's Torah, the kindling of lights, and we read by Hebden Soah that when the holy ark was carried, the prayer was, "Kuma Adonai, come, O God, arise, O God, v'yafutzu oyevecha, and spread out your enemies. V'yelusu misanecha, let them run, your enemies run from you." Here we're speaking about holiness, about an ark, and then we speak about enemies running and going. Yes, my friends. If what is in that ark and the spirit of that light of the ark must indeed chase and fight the enemies of what the Kadosh, the holiness, the or, the light of Torah of this particular ark. And when we read last week of the Birchas Kohanim, the last prayer for peace was a peace of an inner type, a peace of the soul, a tranquility within yourself that you can give to others, a peace that light radiates from within to the world. When we read that from all who had to prophesy, suddenly two more prophesied, it was because they felt the importance not of saying I'm a great man, not of the prestige of greatness, but the simplicity of giving from one's inner self to another. And so they too deserved to be prophets. My dear friends, our Haftorah says it so beautifully. And I end with this. Our Haftorah calls out to the world, not only to the people, not by might nor by power, by my spirit, saith the Lord.
We have no control of the evils of nature. But there is a second kind of disaster that imperils man, a man-made crisis, convulsion upon society, revolution, outbursts of violence, riots, mass hysteria, war. War. Killing. Man putting his fellow man to death. And my friends, this disaster has not stopped, and it's getting worse. Yet, I, as a religious leader, am going to advocate a hawkish attitude in a certain instance.